way? Wow. Wow. Okay, so here we go. Thanks for inviting me. My website is paulhasselbeck.com. My podcast is metaphysicalromp2.com, and my email is alberthasselbeck@gmail.com. The last one's the most important. If you have any questions about what I'm talking about, you want to reach out to me, that's fine. I have a rule, and my rule is once we're interacting, we are forever entangled. Okay, so we are friends from now on. All right, so please feel free to reach out to me. And get out your cell phone. You already had it out. Feel free to take pictures of any slides. I will send the slide sets to Jason. If anybody wants them, you can email me, and I'll give them to you, okay? So let's go, Jason. So what's love got to do with it? Well, there's a simple answer, isn't it? Everything. Everything. We need to be bringing the awareness to love with everything. Next, please. So here are some quotes. Love is all you need. Love heals everything. Love conquers everything. And love makes the world go round. These are all absolutely true if we're talking about in consciousness. In your own consciousness. We have no power over anybody. The best we can do with somebody else is influence them. And sometimes that doesn't go so well, right? Okay, next slide. So I'm going to give you a roadmap. We're going to talk about love, the power. It's one of the 12 powers. We're going to talk about the feeling and emotion. We're going to talk about love in action, some love quotes, and then my favorite topic is the last one, love versus fear. So are you ready to romp? Because we're going to romp, okay? Now, I don't expect you to remember any of this or all of this, but maybe there's one thing you'll hear today that you will walk out these doors and use it. Because that's what Unity Teachings is all about. Okay, the 12 powers, what are they? So your job now is to answer yes or no. Do you notice you have the ability to energize? Do you notice you have the ability to release and let go? Do you notice you have the ability to be zealicious? Do you notice you have the ability to organize, sequence, adjust? Yes? Do you notice you have the ability to choose? You notice the ability to understand and comprehend? Do you notice you have the ability to envision and imagine? Do you notice you have the ability or the power to have dominion or personal authority? Do you notice you have the ability to desire? Do you notice you have the ability to compare and contrast? Do you notice you have the ability to be strong? Do you notice you have the ability to believe? Okay, so what you've just answered should prove to you that you have these 12 abilities, because those are the most contemporary names we can give to those powers. And so it's no longer a question of whether you have them. It's more a question of whether you are using them consciously. That's the important thing. Using these powers consciously. And so we are going to focus today on the power of love. With these first few things I want to share about, it applies to all of the powers, which are divine ideas, which we could also call principles. And believe me, friends, there's a lot more of these. But you know what? Keeping track of 12 is work enough, isn't it? Okay, let's go. So the power of love is our ability to desire, our ability to harmonize, our ability to unify, our ability to attract ourselves to. We hear about attraction like we attract things to us. That's not how it works. You attract yourself to people. You attract yourself to things. I attract myself to dark chocolate all the time, don't you? I mean, really, okay? And when we're talking about harmonizing, unifying, we can use it in the outer world, but the way we most use it is harmonizing and unifying our consciousness. That's why we do affirmations. When you're holding an affirmation, you're beginning to unify and harmonize your consciousness around that true thought, that higher thought, and then it grows in your mind. Next slide. So Here we go. This is standard issue. Power of love is the Apostle John. It's back of the heart. The color we associate it with it is pink, and then it works with, what did I say? Discernment, understanding, and will, blah, blah, blah. That stuff isn't particularly useful, but if you're going to be a licensed Unity teacher or minister, you need to know those things. Next slide. Okay, so Mother Myrtle, you know about Myrtle Fillmore, don't you? Yeah, Mother Myrtle said, God is love. We make divine love into loving. We make it into loving. God doesn't make us love. Next, please. And here we go. Everyone take a deep breath. This is one that people kind of go, oh. God is not loving, right? We've been told that since we were little munchkins, right? That God loves you. Jesus loves you. God is not loving. God is love within you, from which we draw forth all feeling, all sympathy, what else did he say? Emotion, and all that goes to make up the joys of existence. Love is an ability within you. It's inherent. It's innate. You can't be given more. You can't be taken away. It's there. We use it to do these things. Next slide, please. So, Charles says, God does not love anybody or anything. What? How many people are having cognitive dissonance right now? You know, it's like, what did he just say? Okay? See, God is the love in everybody and everything. Why everything? Because principles are everywhere present in their totality at every point in space all at the same time. So this principle of love, this divine idea of love, is everywhere and present and available. The trick is using it. Next slide. So, love does make the world go round, but how does that work? Do you notice that statement, love makes the world go round, is kind of vague? And how do we make that actionable? Well, one of my stock phrases is, what happens in vagueness stays in vagueness. You can't, when you're not specific, you can't do anything. You didn't vaguely come to church today, did you? You know, you chose one church and here you are. Yes? So how does love make the world go round? It is desire. It's love as desire that makes the world go round. Have you ever thought about that? That from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed, you're moving from one desire to the next desire to the next desire to the next desire until you desire to go to bed, and then you go to sleep, and who knows what happens in our dreams. You know, my waking mind is crazy. You should be in my dreams. Whew. So we move from desire to desire. Isn't that good to know? Because then you can then have your consciousness, your awareness focus on just what am I desiring right now? What are you desiring right now? Next slide. Okay, so these are just the basic about all principles, all divine ideas. We use them whether we're conscious of them or not. Next one is we're always using them. Next one is they don't care how they're used. They don't care if you use them, abuse them, not use them. They simply are. Just like your toaster simply is. You decide whether you use it or not. They're there for your use. Next. They can be overdeveloped or underdeveloped. So let's look at love. How might overdeveloped love look? Addiction. Addiction. Yeah. Or fatal attraction. Right? Or less. What? Obsession. Yes. Yes. So what might underdeveloped love look like? Apathy. Who said that? That's a really good one. Apathy. Who cares? Next. So they can be used at any level of consciousness. And then, how do you and I use love in the arena of our consciousness, in the arena of our body, in the arena beyond our skin? I like to think of these three arenas. In unity, the most important is probably consciousness. How am I using desire in my consciousness? What am I desiring? So when you're doing an affirmation, that's what you're putting your desire in that moment. Got it? Okay. In our bodies, what are you desiring for your body? Are you desiring to eat well? Are you desiring to exercise? Are you desiring to take care of your body in some way? And then beyond our skin, in the world around us, how are you using your desire? Does it support you in being the best you can be in the world around you? Well, I think the answer is yes, because you brought your body here today, didn't you? You're here. This is a good way to focus yourself to help all of those, your consciousness, your body, and the world around you. Next. Okay, so love, the feeling and emotion. So it's defined as an intense feeling of deep affection. I would say an intense feeling of deep desire and a great interest and pleasure in something. Doesn't that work? Next. So it's the feeling that excites desire for the welfare of the object. So if you have a child, you love your child, aren't you all about the welfare of that child? You have a partner, aren't you all about the welfare of the child? If you love your car, you do that with your car. If you love dark chocolate, you don't leave it out in the sun, you know? you take good care of it, you know? I mean, I do have my priorities straight here. Next. So, and then there's love the action. Because we can talk about love one another and all of that, but how can we express our love as an action? So this man, Gary Chapman, wrote a book, The 5 Love Languages. I'm sure some of you know it. If you don't know it, run out to the store and get it. It transformed my way of being with other people. I should say, it didn't do it. I used the information in there to transform myself. And so there's 5 ways. There's touch. A lot of us love to hug. Some of us don't. And then there's quality time. That's mine. I like being with people, but I prefer quality time one-on-one with a person so we can really know each other and talk. Words of affirmation. You find that a lot in unity. A lot of people need to be or have that desire to be affirmed. And that's also how they tell you they love you if they're giving you affirmations. Acts of service. We see that a lot in a church, giving service to each other, giving service to the world, going out to help others. And then finally, gifts. This one I love because I have a friend, maybe you have a friend. He didn't know me very well, and for my first birthday, he gave me the most amazing gift, and I said, how do you know that? And he goes, I don't know how I know that, I just do it. Because he has that gift. And not only does he have the gift of giving gifts, but Lord Almighty, can he wrap a gift? You know, it's like the most beautiful gift I've ever received. Next. And so now I'd like you to sit back and ponder some quotes. You are the abode of love. You pretty much know that, right? I am the abode of love. And then Charles said, you are filled and thrilled with the mighty magnetic forces that love uses in doing its work. Now that's Charles Fillmore language from almost 100 years ago. He's saying love is doing the work. No, love is what we use to do the work. So we are the activity. We are the creator. We are the manifester. We are the demonstrator. And it sure ought to be starting with desire. Next slide. Okay. There is but one power. We use it as we will. You've heard this. There's only one power, one presence. Okay? But if you heard it like me when I was more knowledgeable, I would say there's only one power and one presence that in my inside voice, and it's not me. How many of you have had that idea? That when you heard that, there's one power. Oh, yeah, it's God, but it's not me. Okay? But Charles says there is but one power, We use it as we will. If we send it out in hate, it destroys. Wow, right? But if we send it out in love, it builds. So when you're going about your life, what do you want to do? Do you want to destroy or do you want to build? Where is your desire? And then he goes on to say, there are not two powers, but two ways of using power. I would say there's a whole range of ways of using power between hate and love. You decide how you use divine power. God is not telling you how to use divine power. You are discerning that within you. Next slide. So he says, banish worry by quietly and confidently affirming the drawing power of love as the constantly active magnet that attracts your unfailing supply. Okay, so that sounds like we'll attract our supply to us, that our supply is things and people and food and houses. That ain't it. Next. He also said a good affirmation to rout worry is divine love bountifully supplies and increases substance to meet every need. But what is this substance? What is this supply? Is it outer stuff? No, because it's about consciousness. Next slide. So, supply is spiritual substance. What is spiritual substance? It's divine ideas. It's these 12 powers. That's the substance that makes up the divine, just like thoughts and feelings make up the substance of your consciousness. We're not talking about physical substance. We're talking about these very important divine ideas, these principles, these 12 powers that then we use to manifest beyond our consciousness. Next. All right. Fear versus love. So a few years back, I was preparing to do a talk for Unity of Dallas. I was live in this case, and I was working on this. I was working on a talk about love, and of course, we almost can't bring up the topic of love without talking about fear, because we hear things that fear is the opposite of love, and fear is to be avoided. Fear is the enemy. You've heard all this, haven't you? Yeah, okay. And that your ego is the one that's fearful, so we got to kill off our ego. No. So, first of all, let's look at these acronyms. False evidence appearing real. How many of you have heard that one? Yeah, that's like the most popular. The next one, forget everything and run. I love that. Yeah. And it's not just run, it's run fast. Okay? This one I love. Face everything and rise. This is like kind of the new point of view that's been arising in Unity for about 10 years, is that you face it. You don't stuff it. And then you rise above it. And I want to show you a way to rise above it. Here we go. So fear versus love. Well, first of all, how does fear arrive? Well, we have our amygdalas. There's not just one. We talk as if there's one. There's two of them, one for each side of our brain, okay? And our amygdalas react before you even know it, right? And they basically ask two questions. Am I safe? Do I matter? Am I safe? Do I matter? And if either of those, the answer is no, it starts triggering the cascade of biochemistry that puts us into fight, flight, freeze, or please. We usually talk about fight or flight, but that doesn't cover it all. I'm a freeze. Anybody else a freeze? I just, deer in the headlights. Okay? And the please is an interesting one. That's when you're with a bully. You try to please the bully so you're not hurt in some way. So fight, flight, freeze, or please. It puts out what's it? Next slide. Adrenaline and cortisol. They're stress hormones, and they are not good for your body. So we want to figure out ways to tamp that down. Here's how we do it. So we tamp it down through calm and connect breathing. So when our amygdala puts out those chemicals, our breathing becomes shallow. The capillaries in our frontal lobes contract, so we can't think right anymore. That's why we do stupid stuff when we're all triggered, right? And so we have to do something to release the biochemistry that counteracts all of that. And one of them is this calm and connect breathing, which is basically taking deep diaphragmatic breaths slowly. Here's the cool thing. It's hardwired in you that if you breathe that way, if you purposely slow down your breathing to deep, slow, even holding between breaths, then your body puts out these biochemistries that correspond to the word, I love this, dose. So you give yourself a dose of dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. These are happy chemicals. You know, you don't have to go to your corner druggie. You can just... And it works. Just like you can't control your amygdalas that's trying to protect you, you have this ability to provide the biochemistry yourself. I just think that's the coolest thing since toast. Okay, next. Okay, so then what if fear is evidence of love's presence, not the opposite of love? So that's a good question to ask yourself, because we won't really want to question our unquestioned answers. And that's what came to me when I was creating this talk in Dallas, is that, wait a minute, fear may hide love's presence, but that means whenever fear is present, then what else is there? Love. And so think about that. Whenever you're fearful, you might be fearful when a loved one might be in a difficult situation. Or you're here and you're fearful your house is going to get destroyed by a hurricane. You getting me? Okay, because you can't have fear unless you're loving something that's being threatened. And so what does that do for us? It gives us a trigger. It gives us a way to reframe fear to be more like a positive affirmation that love is present. So anytime I notice I'm going into fear, and often it's because that reaction I'm having from the amygdala, my first question is, oh, what am I loving here? Where can I put my focus? I can put on focus on that thing I love. And since we all have these fear reactions, this is probably the most practical tool you can walk out of here with, is that whenever I am fearful, it's because I love something. And I'll share one more thing with you that as a result of me realizing this. As a minister, I often hear people say, I can love other people, but I can't love myself. And so I ask them, are you ever fearful for yourself? And they go, well, yeah. And I said, well, that's evidence you love yourself. Because if you didn't love yourself, you wouldn't be afraid. Are you getting me? Yeah. So you have this vast, infinite potential of love within you that you can use to have a better life. And whatever that better life is up to you. You get to choose. Did you notice that? So I invite you to go forth today as you leave this sanctuary to realize the love you are and the love you express to be the very best you can be. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for visiting our YouTube channel. We post new videos every week to keep you positive, present, and inspired to your divinity. Please click on the subscribe button below and also that notification bell. Remember to share this with your friends and your family, those that you know will be inspired just like you have been. And always remember that we love you, that we bless you, that we behold the Christ in you, and we see you doing great things. Thanks and take care.